In today's video, we're talking about powering my greenhouse using solar energy and the new EcoFlow DELTA 2. When I set up my greenhouse in June, there was really one thing that was stopping me from using the greenhouse to its full potential, and that was the lack of power. I wanted to get a fan in there, or eventually in winter maybe a heater and so on, have some smart devices to automate misting and so on, but I don't have a power outlet outside. So I was super happy when EcoFlow reached out to me saying that they might have the solution for me. 1.5 months ago, the solution arrived in the form of the EcoFlow DELTA 2, their newest, well, it's much more than just a battery at this stage. And I got the solar bundle, so on the roof over there, you can currently see a solar panel which is used to charge this battery. But before we go into the specs and the pros and cons of this product and if it has actually solved my problem, let's cook some pudding and look at the installation and what I learned about this product over the last month and a half. Now, I mentioned before that I don't have any power outside, and EcoFlow reached out to me on the back of one of my videos and said that they have the solution for me. So this is the EcoFlow DELTA 2, and it's basically like a power bank, but a big power bank. It's usually designed, to go off-road, to go camping, or if you have a property without utilities, for example. But they reached out saying that this could be the solution for my power problem in my greenhouse or my courtyards overall. Now, this is just a battery. There's a couple of ways I can charge that. I could either take it inside and charge it, but that kind of defeats the purpose. So EcoFlow has also sent me this solar panel that I can use to charge the battery in the first place. Now, I'm going to talk all about the specs and numbers at the end of the video, but today I just want to get it set up, and then over the next week or couple of weeks I just want to test and see whether the solar panel can create more energy than I'm going to use powering a fan and maybe some other things with my EcoFlow. There were some detailed instructions in there, and they also sent me a video which I'll link in the description that shows how you can optimize the power that you can harvest using the solar panel. So obviously depends on sun exposure, but it also depends on things like temperature and so on. But I have a spot in mind where I want to put it, so I just want to put it there and see how much power I get from putting the solar panel in that spot, and that spot is the roof of my greenhouse. I'm feeling if I put it on the roof of my greenhouse at the same time, it's also going to kind of shade the greenhouse a little more. Heading into spring and then summer, I'm probably going to have to be more worried about overheating in the greenhouse than it being too cold in winter. So it kind of is going to double as a shade cloth. Now, this solar panel is waterproof and dustproof, so it's totally fine to go on top of the greenhouse. And it comes in this carrier case, and this carrier case can also be used as a stand, which I'm not going to do. I'm going to pop it on here, but I'll insert some photos on how it's meant to be used. So you can see that this is really meant to be used for like camping, right? You go camping and you just pop it up on your campsite and you have all the power in the world. This is a 220 watts solar panel, and it is on both sides, if that makes sense. So there's one side that you should obviously make face the sun, and then the other side can still create energy using ambient light, which is perfect for my greenhouse because, well, there's still going to be ambient light coming from below. So, alrighty, my friends, I'm here. As you can see, up here there's way more sun because right there is a little fence that is, shading the bottom part, but the roof should be getting the most sun. It's quite unobstructed as well, as you can see, so I figured this would be the best spot in my entire apartment or courtyard to put it on, and kind of makes sense because I want to use it for the greenhouse specifically as well, so I wouldn't have to run cables back and forth. East is there, so sun will rise over here, north is there, west is here, south is here. Keep in mind I'm in the southern hemisphere, so in winter the sun kind of goes this way, and in summer the sun should go kind of this way. So winter might be a problem and getting sufficient sun, at least in this courtyard. In winter I might have to set up in the other courtyard, but in summer specifically this part of the courtyard gets quite a lot of sun. This part of the courtyard is kind of shaded by the house in itself. So my thinking is that I set it up on this side. There's two options. Let me show you. Jeez, it's heavy. So today I just want to set it up provisionally, just to see if it even works before I put too much effort into like fixing it and so on. It is heavy. It's definitely a quality product. First of all, this is the perfect length of my greenhouse. Like, what the hell? Like, perfect length of the greenhouse. Okay, it's resting on here. So it's the perfect length of the greenhouse. Like this, it's kind of overlapping the window by this much tiny bit, which makes me think that if it actually ends up staying here, I could just have the window open on top of it, if that makes sense. So I can still use that window over there. Now this, whoa, shit. Oh no, I just broke off the new chute. Oops. Anyway, now this makes sense right now because, ooh, it's windy. I'll get down here so you can't hear too much wind noise. This makes sense right now because right now it's the afternoon, the sun is coming, the sun is setting, so it's coming from west. So this side of the greenhouse gets all the sun. But the other way I was thinking I could set this up is this way, because it has these convenient folds. I could have just make it fold on top of the greenhouse like this, and I can move it further to the right to not block the window, so I would just have to hedge the viburnums a little bit. But then this way, when the sun rises, the back part of the panel gets sun, and when the sun sets, this part of the panel gets the sun. So I might just set it up one way, monitor it over a couple of days, and then set it up the other way, monitor it over a couple of days. I looked at the forecast and it's supposed to be really nice and sunny for a while, so happy days. Now I think I'm just going to leave it like this for now because it kind of is secure in itself, because, you know, so I don't need to worry about fixing anything. Cables. And I read the instructions, but it's actually really self-explanatory as well. But of course, as always, read the instructions specifically where we're dealing with electricity. But again, all of this is water and dust proof. So it's designed for outdoors. Alrighty, I'll pop that in here. Let me get off that bench. Right, please excuse the poor cable management, but as I said, I just want to see if it even works. I mean, based on paper, it definitely works, but you guys know, proof is in the pudding. If I know it's going to work, I'll do a better job at cable management. So let's have a look at this, and we also have an app actually that goes with it, which I have already downloaded. So let me just quickly connect it. So I've got it all connected via Wi-Fi, and let's have a look. So you can see right now I get 38 watts input. And my overall thing is sitting at 36.6%. So it needs almost 100 more hours to be fully charged. But ultimately what's important is that over the course of a day, or over the let's say the course of a week, let's say, right, with some ups and downs in sun, that overall I use less than I make, right? If it stores more energy than I use, then the fan will never not run, right? So, I also have a fan. If you can see that, yep, here we go. Bought a fan from Bunnings, of course. Now this is an outdoor fan. It was 250 bucks, can you believe that? For a fan. Anyway. But I wanted to make sure that it's waterproof and dustproof, which it is. So it is specifically made for outdoor use, which is great because eventually I might want to have misters in my greenhouse and so on as well. So it will get wet in there. So if I plug this in, okay, let's have a look at what my app says. So I've got it on speed 4 out of 12 at the moment. Okay, currently it says this is not taking any, oh, can you see this? Hello? Currently it says there's no output. Interesting. So I've got it on level 12 and swinging, and now the output is 44, right? So obviously that is not gonna cut it. If I input 33 and I output 30, if I input 34 and I output 43, then eventually the battery is gonna run out, right? So, but this is like blizzard strength. I don't need it this fast, right? I think my main goal is just have the air moving, right? Because it's super humid in that greenhouse. So I just want to make sure that the air is constantly circulating so that there's no mold forming, right? So basically like in my IKEA cabinet, right? It's 99% humidity in there, but I've got a little desk fan that just circulates the air, so none of my plants have any fungal issues. I've had fungal issues in my greenhouse already, and that was because I didn't have enough airflow. So I've had to keep all of my windows open the whole time, which basically then means that the greenhouse isn't really giving my plants a humidity boost anymore. At this stage, it's only protecting it from really heavy rain. And I want my greenhouse to do a little bit more than that. I want to be able to create really nice, warm, humid conditions in there for my plants to thrive. But with humidity comes fungal issues if there's not enough airflow. So I just want to make sure that the air circulates in there. I don't want to create tornado winds. So this sort of level, 2 or maybe 3, should be plenty. And when I change it to 2 or 3, it literally says output 0. Okay, so we're inside the greenhouse now. I've got the fan set up over here. I've got the EcoFlow over here, and I know it's supposed to be waterproof and dustproof and so on, but just to be extra safe, I thought I'll put it in a box. I'll put a lid on it, so in case it doesn't rain in here, but in case I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna hose everything down or something like that, I don't cause more, like I don't wanna, better safe than sorry, basically. All right. Close this as much as I can. Obviously, eventually I'll drill some holes on the side. I'm not gonna try and put too much effort into making it look pretty for now. I just want to make sure that the idea works. All right, so right now it's gone down to input 23. That's okay, the sun is slowly going down. Keep in mind, we're still in August as well, right? So July is the shortest month of the year over here with the least sunlight. So we're still not in the good half of the year. So 23 input, 0 output, but the fan is definitely working. So I'll be back when there's something to share. Alrighty, and we're basically, based on the season at the moment, I'm not getting all too much sun hitting the solar panel. When it does, I think the highest I've seen was like an input of about 43 watts, but usually it's more like 20, 30, 40-ish. So obviously not using the full potential of that solar panel. So the position is not right, at least for the current season. I think a bit closer to summer, and in summer, I think it will be perfect. Let me show you what the sun exposure looks like in the morning at the moment. I put in this photo, and you can see that the sun really stops exactly where the solar panel kind of starts, but the sun is going to move closer and closer. So I think in summer, this courtyard will, up to about here, gets a lot of direct sun, pretty much all day. So I think this is a good position for summer, but right now I get more sun west facing. So I want to try that second option and putting the solar panel just on one side and see if that improves the energy that I can harvest using the sun. Also, something I wanted to show you. Over the greenhouse, my neighbors over there, they have solar panels on their roof as well, and they have them exposed correctly. So they are north facing, but if I would make my solar panel north facing, it's just gonna it's just gonna get shaded by the building. So basically, I know I can't give it the best possible exposure because that would be north facing, but if it's north facing, the building will always block the sun. So I know that I'm probably never going to be able to truly get the full potential out of the solar panel, but as long as it is making more electricity than it is using, it will be okay, right? So what I actually did to give it the best chances, I actually charged it manually, like from the power inside. And when it was at 100%, then I put it back inside, and it lasts about 2 days with the additional top up of the solar panel. So at the moment, I kind of every 2 days, I need to charge the EcoFlow again, which only takes an hour and 20 minutes to get to 100% charge, and then it depletes over two days, right? So that's not terrible. The thing is, like, I can't permanently have it connected to the electricity inside. I mean, if I could, then I wouldn't have to go through all of that effort, because all of my windows close shut like properly, right? Because you can probably hear the road noise, so they're all like properly insulated, and then it's like dead silence inside. So I can't, like, it's okay to do that for an hour or so, but overall, I don't want to have my windows and door open at all times just to feed electricity out here. That's the whole idea why I'm setting this up. But anyway, let's just change the setup, and then I'll give it another week to see if that gives me more energy. Definitely what I already know is I'm probably not going to be able to have one setup for forever. It's probably going to have to be, like, the setup probably has to change with the seasons. But let's get started. So the idea is, that I put it on this side, because this is west facing, and you can see the sun hitting it right now, right? So that should hopefully do more, because the two panels that were kind of the two panels that were east facing were doing absolutely nothing. But they will if the sun is hitting it from the top, right? Proof is in the pudding. I'll let that sit there for another week, and hopefully the week isn't as overcast as today is, because obviously we want full sun so I can really see what the maximum input would be. Alrighty, thank you, Jan from the past. So we are now at the very end of September, and honestly, it's only been a month and a half, but it feels like we've gone through like spring already, and we're in the middle of summer. It's a nice 30-degree hot day today, and I paid so much attention to the actual movement of the sun over those last 6 weeks, and it's crazy how much the sun has already moved. So basically, in the last few clips, I was struggling with a couple of things. Well, first thing I was struggling with is that it kind of turned itself off, or I wasn't too sure, is the EcoFlow turning itself off, or is the fan turning itself off? Now, I've connected a light to the EcoFlow, one that doesn't, like, I know that it's not going to turn itself off, and that eventually turned off. So I do believe that it's the EcoFlow that turns itself off, even though in the settings I actually told it to not turn itself off. So I emailed them, and they were also not quite sure why that's the case. I'm thinking maybe it just ran out of battery and then it just charged again. You know what I mean? Anyway, I found a solution that just made this problem null and void though, because, well, the fan that I have is actually a smart fan. And I just set a schedule for like every hour of the day. So every hour I tell it to turn itself on. So in case it would turn itself off at some stage, worst case scenario, an hour later, there is a schedule asking the fan to turn itself back on. That is also super handy. Sometimes the battery depletes overnight, because obviously overnight it's not charging using the solar panels, but I still have the fan running. Sometimes in the morning the EcoFlow is actually empty, but as soon as the sun hits the solar panel and it recharges the EcoFlow, because I've got a schedule set up every hour, eventually the fan will turn itself on. So it is somewhat autonomous now. I don't really have to do much about it anymore. I do charge it every like 4 days now, which is really good. Earlier, like only just 6 or 7 weeks ago, I had to charge it every 2 days, but it was just because we had way less sunlight hours. And again, I am struggling to get the right exposure for my solar panel. So that's not necessarily a limitation of the EcoFlow or the solar panel in itself. I just don't have the right spot to set it up to properly utilize the sun, specifically during autumn or winter. But in spring and summer, when the sun is hitting my south-facing courtyard much more, I've been getting speeds of up to 160 plus now, which is really great. Like 220 would be the max. So me getting 160 without fully optimizing the angle to the sun, I think that was actually really, really good. So overall, that problem of like the fan turning off and it not like running all the time, that's kind of solved now. And obviously, like during night, like if the fan turns off during night, I'm not as worried. I specifically want the fan to be on when the sun is hitting the greenhouse and it gets warm in here to make sure the air is circulating, and I then have the windows open at the top as well so that hot air can escape. The second issue that I had with the EcoFlow over the 6 to 7 weeks that I was testing it is that on the app, it kind of showed me that like there is no output even though the fan is on. So I reached out to them and they said that the minimum output before like the EcoFlow can really detect it is 18 watts. So the fan must be just under 18, and I actually bumped it up a couple of settings, and then as soon as it hit over 18, it continuously actually showed me the output, and that then resulted in more accurate calculation of how much time I've got left and so on. So basically, it's just a limitation, but basically if I wouldn't be charging it using solar power, or if I wouldn't be supplementing with solar power, the way that I calculated is that it should technically be able to run this fan on that lowest setting that I had it on for about 2 days straight. So if I only have to end up charging it every 4 days, it basically means that I'm supplementing 50% of the energy using solar. So overall, I'm really happy with it because it does enable me to do what I wanted to do. It enables me to have the windows closed more often and only really air it out once a day or so, create a more humid environment in here, but without increasing the risk of fungal infections due to a lack of airflow and so on. So that's great, and that's just the first thing, right? I only used the fan for now, but next week I'm also want to install like a misting system and then maybe a timer or something like that, and chances are that something like that might also require some power input. I want to work on some lighting maybe in here as well, so I can enjoy it during nighttime as well, and so on. So now that I know that it's working, I have more possibilities. So very happy with the way that it works. And an added bonus, you can see the solar panel at the top over here. I ended up having like it more even, and 2 on this side and 2 on that side, because the sun is really the sun is now hitting the top of the courtyard more often, if that makes sense. I don't think I'm gonna have any issues during spring and summer using it in the way that I intended, but I might have to get creative for winter, because I don't think the sun in winter in my south facing courtyard will be sufficient to actually power the fan consistently, and definitely wouldn't be enough to actually heat this greenhouse consistently over winter. But I also want to explore heating options outside of using electricity. So anyway, that's a future problem. Alrighty, so that was kind of my experiences with this product. Keep in mind that I'm using this product not necessarily in the way that it was intended to be used, right? This is really your like camping buddy, or like a camping companion, or if you go on a festival, or even if you just have like a daytime party at a park or something like that. It can power up to 13 devices at a time, and you can see that on this side over here we've got USB and micro USB, or now USB-C inputs or outputs right here. So really handy to just even like power your phone, power a laptop and so on if you want to work on the road. And you know, I always need to, I pretty much at all times need to charge my phone. And then on the other side you've got the normal power plugs, you know, so you can like it's meant to be used for like you're camping and you want to make yourself a coffee in the morning and so on, right? Okay, that was just me rambling, but I did actually take some notes as well. So let's maybe go through some of the stats first, and I'll put as much on screen as possible, but I also just gonna link their website down below. I'm not a super like techie guy, so yeah, these specs in themselves don't mean all too much to me. I'm more about an experienced guy. I'm not so much the theory guy. But, so this is the Delta 2 and it just got released in Australia, but it's also available in the US and the UK already. So the Delta 2 has 1 kilowatt of capacity, but you can extend it as well. So there is a little slot over here where you can plug in an extra battery, so you can go up to 2 or 3 kilowatts. As I said before, it can power up to 13 devices at a time, and it can pretty much power anything. Even if you have like a little mini fridge that you want to power for a little while, yeah, it can do that. And I'll put some examples of devices and how long it can charge it continuously for without it having to be recharged. I'll put that up on screen. Like your phone, for example, you could charge it up to 89 times before it runs out of battery. But obviously, if you connect it to a solar panel as well, then it will constantly top it up. So that's kind of the way that I'm using it. You're enjoying it too, my baby. Are you fascinated by it? Yes? Okay. Now the thing that I thought was the most impressive is if I don't charge it via solar panel, I actually just charge it using a plug. It charges to 80% within just 50 minutes. Like, it's super fast. So like within an hour, it's fully charged, really quick, really convenient. Great. And that's just, I do that every 4 days or so, and that gives me a good chance to just air out the greenhouse as well. Just open all the doors, I take an extension cable from inside, I plug it in, and within an hour it's fully charged. Now, I don't have to do that. I could also just rely on the solar power, but that would mean that the fan might not be running 24/7. Doing that, like, honestly, plugging it in once every 4 days or so doesn't bother me. But if I'd go on a holiday, for example, I probably wouldn't ask my house sitter to do that. I would just rely on the solar power and the schedule of the fans, like turning it on every now and then again whenever it has charged. So either way, whichever way you want to use it, if you want to use it solar power or if you want to use it, charging it traditionally, both works really well. Now, this has an LFP battery, which is a lithium ion battery, which means that it is safer and it should also last much longer than traditional batteries like the magnesium batteries. I think I told you I'm not really good at this, but I did a little bit of research on it. This is like the new generation of batteries that are also now used in a lot of electric vehicles because it has a longer lifespan and it is just much safer to use. Apparently, it's also more sustainable because we're not using rare minerals, but I am no sustainability expert, and ultimately the sustainable thing to do would be to do nothing. But I think it's a good compromise. I do understand that obviously there's, this is a luxury item. No luxury item can ever truly be sustainable, but given that I'm using solar power to supplement the electricity in the first place, it's a balance that I'm really happy with. It comes with 5 years warranty and it's a smart device, so you can connect it up to your app. Alrighty, so those were kind of like the general specs, and I've already kind of given you my opinion on most of them anyway, but I thought it would also be good to go through some pros and cons of this device and the setup and overall let you know how it works for me and how I feel about this product. Should we start off with let's start off with the pros. Let's start it off nicely. Well, the first pro is that it does ultimately do what I wanted to do. It enabled me to have power in my greenhouse and power devices like the fan. Oh, by the way, I didn't plug it in right now, so I can take it out and show you. Secondly, and I just spoke about it, it charges really quickly. I don't need to be like all too strategic about it and be like, oh, when do I have 10 hours to charge this? Oh, have I forgotten about this and so on. If you forget to charge it, it's fine. Within 50 minutes, you're almost there. So that's really convenient. Honestly, it takes this thing less time to charge in the morning than it takes me to get ready and have a coffee. Thirdly, the solar, it does work. I wasn't able to optimize the full capacity of the solar panel, but that is not necessarily based on the product in itself. That is definitely due to the limitation of my location, and it is what it is. But if you're in an open field and you can actually fully expose the solar panel in the perfect angle to the sun, then you can get up to 220 watts per hour, which means that you can charge this really quickly within just 2 to 3 hours. It is modular, so as I said, you can extend it, you can add another EcoFlow battery on top of that to increase your capacity to store energy. You could have a second solar panel and so on. So it is modular and you can adjust it to your needs. And the other thing, it's only 12 kilos. I don't know, I mean, I don't really have much reference to that, but it is fairly heavy. It's solid, it's a quality product, right? But it is fairly portable. It just has these two little handles, so I can't wait to be invited to some sort of beach party or like a party in the park, and I'm gonna rock up with this and I'm gonna make everybody stay, because probably everybody needs to charge their phone or like even just play music, or you know, power like a pump to blow up inflatables, or even power like a little fridge for the duration of the party and so on, right? Nothing worse than a warm drink. So I can't wait to actually use it for other purposes than just my greenhouse. But ultimately, yes, it is really compact and small. It's a quality product made with quality materials, and it is fairly mobile and you can just carry it around. It's portable. And I really love that you get that app with it, where you can see how much is left, how much is currently put in, how much is put out, and so on. So I thought that was really, really handy. Righty, that's my list of pros. So let's talk about the cons. Well, the con is that I still can't just set and forget. I mean, I can now set and forget because I set up some schedules on my fan, but just the EcoFlow in itself, and I suppose that's the part that I'm reviewing, just the EcoFlow itself is not set and forget, right? But again, that is not the way that it was intended to be used in the first place, so can't blame them for that. But basically, if it wasn't for the smart fan, it wouldn't probably suit my purposes or my needs as much as it does. So it's great, but it's only great in combination with the smart fan that I set up. So that together works really well. The other con was that yes, I can't get the full capacity out of the solar panel, but again, that's not necessarily a fault of the product in itself, but it's definitely something that you need to consider. I live in Australia and we do have a lot of sun. We've had a really, really sunny September. So I suppose when it comes to just the sunlight exposure, I'm in a pretty good position to rely on solar power, and still I can't fully rely on it in this greenhouse over here. So if you live in a country that is overcast all the time and you don't get as much sunlight, then yeah, you can't necessarily fully rely on the solar panel because you will not get the full capacity out of it. So keep in mind that whatever maximum capacity you see or you read about online, and that is not necessarily just unique to this product, that's supposed for all solar panels, that is just the maximum output. Doesn't mean that you will always be able to realize it. It depends on a lot of factors, even like temperature, altitude, obviously the angle and so on, how dirty it is. Talking about how dirty it is, that's actually another pro, because I do have the solar panel just lying on top of the roof over there, and the tree above is shedding a lot of stuff on it at the moment. But I honestly just spray it with a water gun, with like the hose to clean it, and that works a treat. It is waterproof, so the solar panel is waterproof. It can get wet, it got rained on, nothing happened. The EcoFlow itself is not waterproof, but they actually have a waterproof bag, and actually the first 20 purchases using my link down below will actually get a free waterproof bag. I overcame that by just getting a little box, so the EcoFlow goes in the box and then I put the lid back on. And that way, if I hoist down the greenhouse, the EcoFlow doesn't get wet. So not a problem for me because, well, I'm not really moving it around. It just stays under this shelf down here. Now, the other negative, and I just briefly touched on it before as well, if your output is under 18 watts, then the app won't actually show, or the device won't really detect that output. It keeps running the fan, but it shows me as if nothing is running, which means that it actually calculates the remaining time incorrectly because it doesn't know that there's actually something drawing on it right now, right? So say for example, if it would draw 20 watts per hour, then it would calculate it correctly. However, if it draws 17 per hour, it actually pretends like it actually doesn't know, and it thinks that it's drawing 0. If you know what I mean. So you can't necessarily rely on the app and the time that the app gives you of how much time you've got left if you are powering a device that takes less than the 18 watts, because it's not going to be detected. But you can always calculate that yourself as well, right? You know that you've got a kilowatt in here. So as long as you then know how much your device takes, you can calculate how long it should last. And then the last thing is the cost. So the bundle of the EcoFlow and the solar panel is $2,700 Aussie dollars, which is not cheap, right? It is a little more expensive because the lithium batteries are more expensive to produce compared to the traditional batteries, but it has a longer lifespan, or like life cycle, so it should last you for longer. Plus you've got a 5-year warranty on top of that as well. So if it's a product that you're going to use very frequently, and I suppose I use it on a daily basis, if I think about it that way, if I use it on a daily basis for the next 5 years, then it's really only a little bit like $1.50 or so a day, which then I think is more reasonable. But yes, it is definitely a bit of an initial investment, but hopefully it's worth it in the long run. Now, whether or not the saving I have on electricity as a result of using a solar panel is really gonna crystallize as a saving in the long run, that's not too sure. I would have to make some calculation, but it's very inconsistent how much it charges throughout the year and so on. So I would really have to look at how much solar energy I can really harvest throughout the whole year to then really assess whether there would be a substantial cost saving from the solar in itself. I suppose the reason why I wanted to go with solar is, well, because I wanted to always give it a try, but predominantly because that's the only solution when you don't have power out here, right? It has to come from solar if I don't manually want to charge the device all the time. So overall, really happy with the product, and it does exactly what I wanted it to do. So it enabled me to now do the things with this greenhouse that I wanted it to do. But of course, I'm not an expert on solar or not an expert on electricity at all. I just plug things in and wait for them to work. I'm not super interested in the tech side in itself. So please do your own research before you go ahead and make any decisions. And again, I have everything linked in the description. If you're in Australia, the US or the UK, you can use discount code SydneyPlant. Just Sydney Plant, no guy, Sydney Plant for 5% off your purchase. And I have the links to the stores in the description. And the first 20 orders in Australia will also get a free waterproof bag with their purchase. Thank you so much, EcoFlow, for sponsoring the Delta 2 and enabling me to power my greenhouse. And thanks to you for watching. Like, subscribe, and leave a nice comment. And I will see you in my next video. Bye. Actually, I'll need to plug it back in. Still haven't worked on cable management, but that will happen soon. There we go.